Hello, I'm Durk Dehner, president and co-founder of the Tama Finland Foundation, and today we are with our present artist-in-resident, Ben Youdan. And Ben is from Liverpool.
Correct.
And actually, let me ask you a question, like what motivated you and how did you find out about the Tom residency program?
Well, I first came across the program when I met you in Berlin, and you were giving a talk at the gallery in Schöneberg. It was a presentation of Tom's work, and it was one of those sort of really fortuitous moments when everything just fell into place. We were already in Berlin, and I just happened to find out that the exhibition was happening 2 blocks from where we were staying, and that you were giving a talk. Now, obviously, I knew who you were, I knew about the foundation, but I didn't know about the residency program. So we arrived at the exhibition to hear you talk about Tom's work, and myself and my husband John were the first people to arrive. We were waiting on the steps and you turned up, so we started chatting. And then that led to us realising that we had people in common, because you've done work with Hometopia in Liverpool, and knew Gary, and obviously I had a connection with him as well. And so that led to us having an email correspondence, and you telling me about the residency programme and saying, why don't you come along? And that's it in a nutshell, really.
Yeah.
That happened over the space of about almost a year.
And how long have you been working as a working artist?
Well, I mean, it depends how far back you are. I've been making collage for as long as I can remember, and I've been doing it professionally for, since I left art college, really. I mean, there was a time where, in order to sustain myself, I had to have other work as well. So I've been doing it properly professionally for about 6 or 7 years now.
And that I had a young man who is one of the models that you did, and he was so elated that he had been taken, you had photographed him, and then you had interpreted him into your work, and he had never had that experience before. And it's something that I regularly encourage people to actually to do that, to get artists to actually photograph you, paint you, do work and commission things from them, because when you have that in your home, and it is for sure, it's always a conversation piece, but it also gives a place and a time in your life.
Absolutely,
you know.
Yeah, it anchors a certain, even down to just a certain moment, or like you say, a time.
Yes.
And it's. I mean, there's the only thing I can say about that really is that it's always a worry when you paint someone's portrait who you know, or who you've met in the real world, and because of course we all have a vision of ourselves and how we look and how we wish to portray ourselves to the wider world. So then when someone else comes along and takes your image and takes your familiarity with your own look and interprets it, there's always a worry that that person isn't going to like it.
Right. And that's
or they're not going to recognise themselves,
right,
or their person, because obviously a portrait like this, in some ways different to a photograph, in that you're trying to capture not just the way they look, but something about their personality as well, something about their interests.
So let's talk about that in regards to what is your process like when you're looking for a model for Muse, and you're wanting to, what do you want to actually express? I mean, you were just saying right there that it's more also about and I didn't really quite understand what you were seeking when we were talking about finding models, in that I didn't know how deep were you wanting to go into a conversation with them so that you could actually take that essence and somehow build it into the project.
That's really important to me. It's been slightly different here to how I would normally do it, because obviously at home it's people I know, and I've worked with similar people, the same sort of people on a number of occasions, and then they will often recommend people to me, so it's friends, either Leathermen or other people that I work with. And because I've been long established there, it's easier to find people. But coming here, of course, I didn't really know anyone. I'd only met you before properly. I hadn't met anyone else connected with the house. And there's always the rule, you come to a new city, you don't know people, there's a whole new scene, they don't know you. And so here it was slightly different. And before I came, I was worried it would be difficult. But when I got here, I realised it wasn't, because of the way that the house is, because there's people coming through the house. So you could literally sit on the front porch and not go any further, and within a few days, and that's more or less what happened.
Yes.
And but I didn't just. What I like is I like to find some sort of connection with the person. So in the past I've tried this, where you find somebody on Instagram or whatever, and they look great, and you meet them, and there's just no connection, or they look great, but they don't really give much in terms of their personality away, in the way that they hold themselves, and the way that they're photographed. And so here it was important for me to spend a little bit of time with each of the models before I even picked up a camera, before we even agreed to do anything. And I did that with all of the guys, which was really, really good. And I felt like I'd made some sort of connection with them all, and I was able to try and I mean, as much as you can in a few hours, learn something about each person. And I mean, like down here, on the Pink Portrait, for example, he was someone I met, and he came to the Band of Brothers meeting here at the house, and we got chatting, and he said he would love to do it. And so he came back, and we sat for over an hour chatting. He told me all kinds of things about himself, and I've tried to incorporate that into the image. And the interesting thing about him is that he had this sort of two sides to his the way he expresses himself visually. So there's the Leatherman side to him, but he is also one of the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence as well. So there's a heightened, so the two, it's almost like I see it as two sides of the same coin. So there's the leather side, which has a heightened sort of masculinity about it, and then there's the more feminine energy from the sisters, and I've tried to embody that in his.
Well, actually, really, yes.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that it seems like I really was, I think, naive, I would say, in regards to how you would combine the two elements, and how they would actually, the sequence and the glitter, and then the Leatherman.
Yeah.
And it is, in fact, end result is something that is glowing, and that is, and really, I know that at one point the viewers will be able to see and get in close. And they'll be able to see.
That's important.
Yes, because last evening, when in fact a particular piece was sold, the thing that really was part of the selling features for this particular patron that wanted the piece was that he loved how you could go deeper and deeper into it, and he was able to see the model in them. He was able to see the material from the Tom House, as far as AMG, physique, pictorial, things out of our past.
That's right. Well, and that is important with these. It was. I like them to work on two levels at least, possibly more, in that you get the main image that you can read now, and then you sort of look underneath and you see that the imagery is much more explicit, because I didn't want to make them just about beauty. They had to be about sex as well. That was really important, being here. Yes. And also, I don't know whether it was a good or a bad coincidence, but the first week I was here, there was all the fuss about Tumblr being cleaned up, and that was one more platform where male erotic form was being eradicated, basically.
Yes.
And so I felt, well, it's important for gay, for queer artists to make that statement, to be celebratory of it, and that's something that, of course, comes directly from Tom's work.
Yes. And he was,
these don't look anything like Tom's work.
No, but the thing was that he was very adamant about not removing the sexuality.
Yeah.
And that he felt it being the essential thing that we must really resist from the larger society of trying to clean us and wash us and make us presentable to them.
Yeah, we don't want to be.
No.
We don't want to be presentable. The whole point of something like a subculture is that it is different from mainstream culture.
Yeah.
And that should be. There's no reason that shouldn't be celebrated
and protected.
Yeah. And the thing I took when the process here really began. These projects really began with starting with the archive, the extensive archive here, not just of Tom's work, but of course the hundreds of other.
So maybe you can just share. So when you came here, what happened?
Well, the first sort of the first couple of weeks, I just sort of immersed myself in the archive. But beginning with Tom, and being able to choose some of his work to hang in my room, and I deliberately chose the things that really drew me to Tom's work initially when I was very young, and that was what we were just saying, the freedom, the depiction of sex outdoors, the leather, the contrast between the leather and the skin of the models, and all of that kind of thing. So I deliberately chose them, and that was really the starting point. And then that expanded into like the archives in this room that we're sat in now of many, many hundreds of other artists as well that have had a connection with the house, either in a physical way coming through it or not. And because I was allowed to use some of Tom's work, that was a great privilege. And that was important for these because in many ways, one of the things that links all of the people depicted is a love of Tom's work and discovering it. So it's quite literally there as an undercurrent that it.
So have you actually named this group of works? I mean, is it part of something larger that you're doing, or?
No, I see these 6 portraits as very, very specific to this house, and so I called the series Mask, M-A-S-C, as a masculine, and I mean, I suppose there's a slight irony in it, in that there's the sort of the flamboyant nature of some of the material.
Well, you know,
but I also think, having said that and having used those materials, I don't think these men look particularly less masculine.
No. And actually, I think that in this day and age, that we need to actually expand our definitions of everything.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a positive thing. And I think that labels are fine if they're self-defined. And but of course, people are human, and nobody fits a stereotype, really, do they? Everybody is an individual.
Oh, I don't know about that. But actually, I'm just kidding. Actually, one of the things I've actually personally enjoyed in getting to know you better is our debating in some ways of kitchen counter chats, and you've certainly gotten me into the ritual of enjoying a cup of tea and a chat.
I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah.
I think that's been one of the favourite things that I've done while I've here.
So I want to ask you in regards to the materials that you use, because what about how fragile are they?
They're surprisingly robust. The glue that I use is really, really strong, so they are surprisingly robust. I mean, I've shipped similar work to this all over the world from the UK.
Yeah.
And touch wood, we've never had any major disasters so far. I mean, it's important to use these sorts of materials for me because I'm always attracted to anything shiny. And there's also, I mean, that links back to the whole point of making them, insofar as they're really about rule breaking, in the sense that when I studied fine art, the tutors were very dismissive of anything that was figurative.
They were
really
it was
heavy abstract work.
Yes, it was very
and they weren't really keen on sort of mixed media.
Right.
Even though that was something I was really interested in using photographs and using found objects and so forth. And then after I studied fine art, I studied architecture, and when I studied that, anything that was decorative was seen as just.
They treated
with contempt.
Yes.
They were very, and I appreciate the beauty of a Mies van der Rohe, Farnsworth House white box. It's an incredibly beautiful thing, but it's very, very different to the stuff I was interested in. And then so it's kind of me saying I'm going to do this because I'm told that's not fine art.
Yes.
And the other thing, anything with a hard cock.
Yes.
It's seen as erotica or porn rather than fine art.
Yes.
So that's why it was important to show that in the background.
Yes.
And then the other rule I broke was no glitter at the Tom House.
You did. And the thing that we prayed for was that we were not going to be put in a situation where we would have glitter as scattered amongst the house.
Yeah.
But it's actually, I think you're right, the glue does work very well.
I think that's been minimal, hasn't it?
And it's been rather climate change here.
Yes.
But we did give you an outside working area.
Yeah.
And it's worked.
It's been amazing, for the most part. There was a few days where I was I wouldn't say forced, but
You were brought inside.
yeah, I was brought inside because there was wind as well, and obviously wind and glitter, and these small elements don't necessarily work. But for the most part, for 2/3 of the time, I've been outside in the sunshine.
I do expect that being put into an environment that is a group of people living and working and visitors all the time and tours, that can be quite different than you normally experience.
Absolutely, yeah. It is a bit of a culture shock. I mean, I have sort of lived in a similar environment before, in the sense that when I was younger, I lived in a large shared house with five of us living there, and there was a constant stream of a transient population of about 20,000 people that came through, and it was,
I don't think this is a good comparison.
it's the only comparison I've got. Whereas now, of course, not that I'm not sociable, I'm sociable, but at home it's much quieter and a much more sort of closed environment. You might say. So when I first came, it did take. I'll be honest with you, it did take me a little bit of time to get used to it. But I think it's been a positive experience. I mean, I've said all along, and I had this as a preconception before I came, that in some ways, it's not just the work that I create while I'm here. It's how I move forward with that when I get home. And I think the whole experience and the people I work with has completely changed the trajectory of how my work is going in a positive way. I feel it's been, and that wouldn't have happened if I'd have made similar work back at home. Do you see what I mean? So it's been important to be in this physical location.
And so, I mean, in that regards, I know that you are planning or scheduled for an exhibition that's some months out.
Yeah, hopefully.
And if I come and attend that opening of that exhibition, I would anticipate to be able to I would even be able to perceive that,
Yeah, well, I hope if, well, it'd be great if you come, and I hope if you do, you'll see, even in just the next sort of, the exhibition will be at the end of this year, so in sort of 8 to 10 months, that there'll be even a change in that relatively short period of time, I hope.
You know what? I just realized that this piece that you're standing behind is one that is an interpretation of yourself.
Correct.
And that is there photographs of yourself in there?
Yeah. The images in the background are a combination of things. So as I was here at the Tom House, you gave me permission to use some of the stuff from the archive. So there is some of Tom's work, and there's also some physique pictorial from the 60s. But then that's combined with photographs of each of the subjects, in this case me.
And did you take these photographs yourself?
No, these were taken by my husband John.
Oh.
We were saying before about how the use of Tom's imagery is something that links all of the subjects together. It's a unifying thing for the guys who are into leather. And everyone has this, everyone's slightly different, but they have a similar story of how they discovered Tom's work. And usually, I mean, my story with it is typical, I think, of a lot of people I've spoken to, in that usually you discover it when you're a little bit too young to fully understand the full implication of it. So I would have only been about 12 or 13, and I've been a late developer in almost everything in life. And I discovered his work in a Taschen book in a bookshop in Liverpool, and it just spoke to me. I just knew this was something that I found interesting and erotic, and felt that somebody was expressing something that was inside of me, but I just hadn't realised it at that point. And that was significant. And I know from talking to a lot of the guys who I've photographed here, they've had similar experiences that they've come across his work. And it's just planted a seed that grew and flourishes later in life when you get older, and your sexuality starts to awaken, and it becomes part of your identity, I guess.
What you just actually communicated to me, Ben, was I felt in myself inside. You penetrated me, and that I realized that that's one of the things that happens with art. Yeah. That what happens with art is people have experiences, and that is why I'm a advocate for artists and advocate for people and for erotic art and for iconology that one identifies with, because it is really, it empowers us.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, I think, you know, I'm not a religious person, but the way I described discovering work like Tom's is almost like an epiphany in a sense. You know, it does have those sorts of connotations.
And I think I had the same experience in older than you. I didn't discover him until I was 26. But I also want to just state that we get letters and we meet individuals from the whole. I mean, it is not he is not owned and by the leather community solely, because in fact he has touched the lives of many multiples and continues to do, and is in fact he's representative of freedom. You know, actually, I'm gonna sidestep right here. It's because I ran into a woman at an opening in Paris, and she was just glowing, standing looking over the mass of people enjoying his art, and I said, "Would you share what that was?" And she said, "Here stands the work of a man who never inhibited what was in his heart, and he represents freedom for all of us."
Yeah.
And so that's really one of the statements that artists, and that's why I'm so pleased to, and I really got to see from this exhibition something that I speak about, but I got to see it from an artist's position about portraiture, and how you've made portraiture a portrait, but also it's a statement about a much broader and you know.
I hope so. Yeah. I mean, I hope there's a narrative. I think for me, and I guess with Tom's work as well, there's a strong narrative. It's about an image telling a story, and I think what you say is absolutely true. Tom's work speaks to people beyond being just dirty books and just something that is on, you know, the top shelf of a newsagent. And and it's because of the subject matter. It's because of the freedom. It's because of the exquisite skill that they're executed with. I think even the sort of the straightest guy who doesn't know anything about leather or even queer culture or gay sex or anything like that would appreciate the skill that it takes to create the skill that Tom had to create his work, I should say. And I think that's why it speaks beyond them. And those messages of freedom are universal. And
I want to also comment on that, because when the subject of glitter came out, and you speaking to this, to wanting to actually create this depth of, I'll acknowledge that I had I was superficial in my evaluation of using sparkly things to express something that was deeper, and because glam, you know, it's. I mean, I'm really hanging myself here, but I want to hang myself because it really is about how we tend to be to just, you know, put things off and treat them as incidental and as superficial, and that because they're about the moment, or because we associate glitter with a moment.
With frivolity.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's true. And I think in some ways that's perhaps why I use them. But for me also, in addition to that, it represents something that's celebratory. And it's funny, you know, somebody once said to me that they'd seen some of my work, and they thought it was like a reworking of something by Gustav Klimt, and I thought that couldn't be further from the truth, because other than the fact that they're shiny, that, you know, Gustav Klimt painted the bourgeois Austrian society at the end of the 19th century, and these are, you know, he used real gold leaf and things like that, and these are plastic and shiny, and they're not the Austrian, they're not the Viennese bourgeois, you know.
But
so
could he not have also meant that how they actually are very beautifully shiny, and they catch your attention.
Maybe the sort of the luminescence, I guess. But although what I'm saying is, although they're shiny, they're very different.
Yes.
Conceptually,
Right.
is what I'm saying.
Yes.
I guess. You know.
Right. Because you're medium.
Because of my music. Well, I mean, I like shiny things because I'm common.
Because you're common.
Because I'm common, and because I'm working.
You're proud of this,
and we like shiny things. Yeah, I don't think it's anything to be ashamed.
No,
of.
I'm not saying you should. You're from Liverpool. It's a working class city.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
And a proud history of it.
You know, and I think I suppose rather egotistically, every work of art an artist makes is a self-portrait in a way, whether it's a literal self-portrait or whether it's a portrait of somebody else. There is something of my personality as much as Mark's personality. In
Yes.
you know.
So this is an expression of Mark Bellinger from. He's our curator and for exhibitions here at the Townhouse, and we're all here a little piece of everything.
He was the first model that I photographed, and that was I guess partly because he was here, and of course he looks amazing.
You know, I spoke to you about being an artist and to not throw away or to treat any parts of your process as incidental.
Yeah.
And that your photographs now, and I hope you're keeping a catalog and documentation of all the models that whether they end up going further or not, that your photographs in themselves are valuable.
Yeah, I've definitely reconsidered that after our conversation. Up till recently, I've never saved photographs of models that I've taken.
Oh my God!
After the work.
For the love of you, if you are an artist, if you're anyone, you do not know what the future is going to bring you and how important it will be to retain correspondence, to retain photographs, that in fact what they do is they provide a whole provenance of information to where it might go. And so we all have to treat ourselves as important.
Yeah.
And see, the thing is that and that the end product is yes, it is the process, but what about all of the steps of the process? You know, Tom never ever thought that his preliminary sketches would be saleable and valuable unto themselves. He thought that they would be informative, and he kept them so that the archive could have them and everything. But thank God he actually shared them with us and building the foundation early enough so that he could reap the financial benefit of selling them.
Yeah.
And that could happen. You know, your mediums could change. You know?
Yeah, that's true. I think any sort of any information like that has value in a different sense. There's the monetary value of something like Tom's preliminary sketches, but there's also the value for archivists of the future when we're all long gone. You know, and when there's nobody left alive who actually knew Tom in many years to come. People will want that information, so it's important. So absolutely fair. And even for a lesser known artist, 50 years after you die, somebody might find these things.
Well, his reference pages, 650 of them, are now classified as works of art and have been sold. You know, some of them have been sold through our gallery representation and garnered. And yes, monetary is important. Not that, and all artists, the fact is that by and large, most artists sell their work much at a lesser price. Sometimes it's you'd sell it for $10 just to see that this person was able to actually have a piece, because it's sometimes the artist, you see that in them. And that, but also I want to speak about the process of actually supporting an artist. When you support an artist by buying their work, you actually you're nurturing their future, that their sense of self-esteem, their sense of value, that they're, you know, yes, we don't want to be focused just on sales, but what it is, it's an integral part of it.
Any artist, you've got to pay the rent at the end of the day, otherwise you can't carry on and create more stuff. And obviously people who buy the work are extremely important in that they facilitate that.
Yes.
But yeah, that is something that I will take away from this experience, other than the making of the work and the people that I've met and all of those great things, that when I get home and then the work I create, I will be more careful about the preliminary photographs and the little sketch that I make for the main image. I will keep them and document them and date them.
During the Thomas Finland Foundation, Tom and I opened it up to really accepting the works of other artists, and also what was our purpose beyond an archive, and it was to educate the relationship of nurturing an artist, being a patron, and how all the different values that are experienced as a result of that. And I think that oftentimes artists are represented by a gallery and they have very little contact with who buys their work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that as you can see around here, it's much more personal.
Yeah, the guy that bought this yesterday had an amazing conversation with him, and just him explaining what drew him to the painting and things like that.
Right.
Is, you know, if you sell it through the gallery, I just wouldn't have had that experience. And it's you know, anybody in life, whatever you do, whether you're an artist or not, you have to go out into the world and find your people.
Yes.
Find the people that, find your tribe, if you like,
yes.
or your, you know,
People that connect.
You know, Quentin Crisp used to say that you have to go out into the world and find people that are as mad as you are and hope that you can get along with them. And I think that's good advice.
No, that's great.
That's something I've always taken with me.
Yes.
Because people, you know, we meet a lot of people in our lives, and not everyone is going to get you or understand you or appreciate your work even. But there are people who will. There are people who will. And coming to a place like this just emphasises that there is. I mean, we've had this conversation before, haven't we, about the place being a magnet for people who have, I mean, similar outlooks, but then the people that are connected to the house are so diverse.
Yes.
In terms of age and outlook and ethnicity and everything. It's remarkable.
I have been impressed, and I've really, so our artist in residency program is very organic, and it continues to evolve itself. When I have brought tours, and sometimes those tours have been rather large, down to your workspace, I found that they were quite interested in finding out how and what you were doing and how it was working.
It's a real privilege to be able to be working and to be able to talk to people directly who have come. They've come here because they know about Tom and they know about the foundation and they want to learn more. And then I think hopefully it's a good experience for them to come and find contemporary artists here working in the same space that he worked in, and trying to fly the flag for similar ideals that he upheld.
Yes.
It's really important.
It is, you know,
it's a privilege for me to do that.
It is about flying the flag for similar ideals,
Yeah.
things to aspire to, and to put your expression of it out into the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, going back to what we were saying before, we were talking about my experience of Los Angeles, and of course I've never been here before I came to do the residency. And Los Angeles is a place that has a complex mythology, and it's a city that I think people around the world feel they know even if they've never visited, because it's so famous, and because it's so because of sort of American cultural imperialism and movies and things like that, people understand. And so of course I came with preconceptions, and they weren't necessarily negative. It was just somewhere that I'd never visited, never had the chance to come to. And it's when I first got here, I felt it was a sort of a large, sprawling, quite intimidating place.
Yes.
And this house feels very separate to that, but at the same time, I think this house could only exist in Los Angeles. I don't think it could have grown up organically as it has anywhere else in the world, as far as I know. And I think that's really interesting, because behind this hedge, behind these walls, it is a bastion of freedom in a city that is in a sense brimming with freedom.
Yes.
But there are also constraints.
Yeah.
I know that I feel like that's a bit of a paradox.
Yeah. No. You actually. I mean, I think if we can close it with that for me, and you can say anything else you want to.
I think I've said.
Yeah, that was a really beautiful.
I think I've said everything I could say.
I think you would. And thank you very much, Ben.
Thank you, Dirk.